UFC hot takes, but they get hotter. Let's see what he has to say. Imavov is the best striker in current middleweight. I agree. The only way you could say otherwise is if you consider MVP a middleweight. Like, he's ranked, but he's more of a welterweight. But if you count him, then it's MVP. But it kind of depends on where you stand on that. Petr Yan deserves the next title shot? Yeah, I think that makes sense. After Corey Sandhagen, there's literally no one else. Petr Yan is on a 3-fight win streak. Anybody wanting an Umar rematch, you gotta let Umar get a win or two first before you can just throw him right back into a title shot. Because look what happened to Sean O'Malley. That kind of backfired. Imavov is the hardest matchup for Hamzat. I actually picked Fluffy Hernandez as the hardest matchup. Cardio, pace, very good wrestling, good grappling, a more technical striker. But honestly, I can see what you're saying if Imavov's able to handle the wrestling. But I don't think anybody's able to handle the wrestling. So, I mean, you could say Imavov, you could say Fluffy, you could say Sean Strickland, you could say whoever. It doesn't matter. None of these guys are beating Hamzat. Dustin is the best lightweight to never win the belt. I don't really think there's much disputing that unless you count Justin Gaethje. So, it's kind of up for debate as to who's better between those two because they each have a win over each other. But I would say Dustin Poirier is probably the better one because he's been in the UFC a lot longer and he's had a lot more high-profile fights and wins, more than Gaethje at least. No one deserves a title shot at lightweight except for Arman. This is true. The only thing going against him is the fact that he pulled out at the last minute against Islam. However, if you go off merit, he is the deserving number one contender. But I understand why Ilya would be hesitant to fight him if he pulls something like this again. Umar will beat Merab in a possible rematch. It could happen, but Umar's got to have the gas tank. If he can have good enough cardio for the first 3 rounds, I believe he beats Merab. If not, no, then nobody's going to beat Merab. MMA should be in the Olympics. Facts. What's crazy is I'm pretty sure almost every single foreign martial art that's like a credible one is in the Olympics, but somehow MMA has not made its way to the Olympics. I would love to see this. Tom would beat John Jones without a doubt. I wouldn't say without a doubt, but I do think that Tom Aspinall should be the favorite. Younger, bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic, more power. Everything's in Tom Aspinall's favor, except for possibly cardio. Maybe, we don't know. And fight IQ. Those are the only 2 things you can argue. Both are going to beat Ilya. Well, Islam, yeah, you can absolutely make the argument that he's bigger, better wrestling. He's just too much for Ilya to handle. However, if you're talking about someone like Usman Nurmagomedov, he's not really tested. We got to see these Bellator guys in the UFC. That's the only way to find out. And as we found out recently, a lot of them have been completely and utterly fraud checked. And there's a possibility that Usman Nurmagomedov could be the same way. And lastly, no one from the Fighting Nerds is going to win the belt. I think Gene Silva eventually will win the belt. I think he's going to get a lot better from that Diego Lopez performance, and I think he will go on one day to be a champ. And as well as, if he had fought anyone else other than Diego Lopez, he would have won that fight. Absolutely. Diego Lopez just has a chin of something else. And the only way Kyle Bahayo wins the belt is if Hamzat loses it, but I don't think that'll happen. And for the other two, Carlos Peraltez and Mauricio Huffy, I just don't see it happening. They're just both in too tough of divisions.